Hello, Sooner football fans, and welcome to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. In this week's episode, we reveal the results of our Facebook poll, Who is the greatest running back in Sooner history? And we touch on Oklahoma's New Wave 19 recruiting class and the Junior Day in Norman on Saturday. Remember to follow us on Twitter at SoonerFBFans, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. And go check out our YouTube channel, Sooner Football Fans Podcast. Sooner Football Fans is not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Booma. Hello, Sooner fans, and welcome to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. I'm Terry, and we got Rob. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
We would say Boomer Caleb, but Caleb is sitting outside watching the NBA All-Star game. Kids will be kids, I suppose.
Takes all kinds.
Yeah, he will. He'll probably stick his head in here and join us, especially if he needs another beer, so he doesn't have to walk as far. So, but we put a poll out this week. And out on Facebook, and our poll was pretty simple. We've always had this conversation, as I think most Sooner fans have.
I agree.
Is who is the greatest running back in Sooner history? What do you think, Rob?
Okay, so you're going with what my opinion is.
Yeah, yours.
My opinion is it is Marcus Dupree, and I know that the career was short and there were all kinds of problems with Marcus, but there's never been another athlete like Marcus, and I'm including Adrian Peterson in that conversation. Let me just give you just a few stats here that I looked up.
All right.
1981, in high school, he ran for almost 3,000 yards.
That's ridiculous.
He had 8.3 yards per carry and 87 touchdowns, which was a national, and still is, a national high school record. I mean, we've had some athletes here. We've had some man-child beasts, but I don't think any of them were better than Marcus Dupree.
I don't either. I agree with you. I think the best running back to put on in history to put on the Sooners jersey is Marcus Dupree.
Yeah, 7,355 yards, and I know this is his high school stats, but he would have put up similar numbers. Well, I mean, his college numbers right in front of us here. He had 209 attempts for 1,789 yards. And then Terry did the math. He would have ran for over 4,500 yards had he stayed on the team.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
Yeah.
Which
So
would have been a Sooner record, by the way.
Yeah. Man, it would probably have been more than that.
Probably been a national record.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it would have probably been closer to 5,000 yards.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I mean, that's just because he didn't play in every game his freshman year. I don't even think he started the first game.
He was only going to be
play.
better. Yeah, he was only going to get better.
Yeah. But he only was there 1 year and 3 games when he disappeared. And so I agree with you. Without a doubt, he's the greatest running back we ever had. But as far as 4 years, and that's what we got to base this off of.
I agree.
So everybody's choices were, of course, we narrowed it down to Billy Sims,
Booma.
Joe Washington, Adrian Peterson, Marcus Dupree, Samaje Perine. Sounded like I was the NFL draft guy.
Get it right.
But, of course, everybody is going to throw in, the write-in votes, and we had some write-in votes.
They're favorites, and I was glad to see them, actually.
Yeah. Personally, I like Todd Taylor. He just put 4 guys right in a row, 4 different posts. David Overstreet, Buster Rhymes, Kenny King, Elvis Peacock, and Stanley Wilson.
You realize it's 5, right?
Was it? Yeah, sure was 5. I can't count. You kind of got to point these things out to me, don't you? But if nothing else, what Todd did was he put 2 of the greatest names of any Sooner ever, Buster Rhymes and Elvis Peacock.
Elvis Peacock. You know that was one. He had to be one tough dude, right?
Oh yeah, because he grew up.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was tough. I guarantee.
Yeah, not just the Elvis, but then the Peacock. That he got some jokes poked at him. But then there was also Busta Rhymes, who, little known fact is that the rapper Busta Rhymes,
Not to be confused with.
the running back Buster Rhymes.
Correct.
That is where Busta Rhymes got his name. He liked the name, and so he shortened it up with an A instead of an ER and became Busta Rhymes. And I saw that on MTV Cribs or something like that. They asked him that, how'd you come up with Busta Rhymes? It's kind of like another little known fact on Sooner names, Mookie Blaylock. That was Pearl Jam's name, their first band's name.
Really?
Yeah, they were Mookie Blaylock because they were huge Seattle basketball fans, which they're not anymore because Seattle doesn't have a team.
Why is that again?
Because they came to Oklahoma City.
Right.
But they loved Mookie Blaylock. They loved his name, and the name of the band was Mookie Blaylock. Which, Mookie Blaylock is probably the coolest name in any sport history.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so those were 4 that Todd wrote in, and then we had people, other folks put in. Steve Owens had 3. Greg Pruitt had 3 write-ins. Spencer Tillman had 2. Joe Mixon had 1.
Hold up right there, okay? Because he kind of falls in the same line, in my opinion, as Marcus Dupree. Now, I know he was here longer, but he had the unfortunate opportunity to run in the same backfield as Samaje Perine.
Right.
If he's the lone starting back in there, I'm telling you, he's on top every year. And he probably sets some records himself.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people, including myself, that agree that had he not been in trouble his freshman year and would have played his freshman year, we may never have heard of Samaje Perine.
That's quite possible.
Yeah.
Quite possible.
Because I think he would have developed so much faster that freshman year. And not that I don't think Samaje's a great back, but I just don't think he would have caught up with him. He'd have probably shared some running time, but I don't think he would have played nearly as much.
No, he would have got like Abdullah
Adams
carries.
Yeah.
You might have been saying, oh yeah, he's a good backup, but Joe is the guy.
Yeah. Also, there was Mike Gaddis, James Allen, Gerald Moore, and another great Sooner name, Horace Ivory. He probably had to be pretty tough in high school too. But all those guys were, Steve Owens, obviously, that's before all of our time, I think. When he played, I was just being born.
So you got to give that one some weight.
Yeah.
Because there's a great big statue right outside my office that has his face on it.
Yeah. And that was a different day and a different type of football. Mm-hmm. It was, there wasn't these spread offenses. You lined up and you ran right at people. You went around the edges, and those were the days of clotheslines.
Well, he was a multi-purpose back, though. He could outrun you, but he could also run through you.
He would run over you. Didn't see him in person. Seen all the videos and all the highlights like all of us have, but definitely a special athlete from Miami, not Miami, Oklahoma, who definitely laid his mark in OU history. So ended up being the AD for a while, and then but he is a huge supporter of the team, huge supporter here in Norman of all types of charities. You see him around town, does what he can for the community. So definitely one that we probably should have put up in there, but that's my bad. We picked the ones that we talk about most, and I think everybody kind of agreed with that. So the other write-ins, the other total votes, they got 16.32% of our voting. We'll just kind of go in order as far as who came in. Let me count again. We have 5 candidates who came in last, which quite honestly surprised me, with 7.14% was Samaje Perine.
Which is Big Caleb's favorite guy, right? No, actually, Joe is his guy, but Samaje getting 7% of the votes. I mean, he does have an NCAA record, right?
Yep. And he has the school record.
Has the school record.
Let's see. Let's just look at his stats, what he did over his career at OU. He had 685 carries for 4,122 yards. He averaged 6 yards per carry and 49 touchdowns. You know, you forget about his receiving. He had 40 receptions in those 3 years with an 8-yard average and 2 touchdowns. So he could catch the ball, and I know that's what he's doing now with the Redskins. He catches it out of the backfield pretty well.
Well, that's why he's a good pro. Not only can he run the ball, he's got the speed to get around. He's got the power to go through. He can catch the ball, but he can also block.
Yep. And he had 427 yards, 34 carries, averaging 12.5 yards per carry against Kansas. I don't care who you are, what team you're playing, 427 yards, like the old saying, against air is good.
The per touch yard per average. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people, you know, I've talked to people, Caleb, we talked about it before. Rob, you know, I've talked about it plenty of times, but, you know, there's been great backs at Oklahoma play against Kansas and did not do that.
Sure.
And Kansas wasn't any better, you know, or any worse against the team that P. Ryan played than they were in the 70s.
I was sitting in the stands. It was wet and rainy that day. So it was, I mean, I think it was doubly impressive.
Yeah. So definitely a guy that I think deserved to be a little bit higher. But I think going to end up having a good career in Washington. And, you know, I think they're starting to kind of build their team or their running game around him now.
Well, he's just strong as an ox.
Yeah.
I mean, good grief. You
So
know, guys like pinky finger lifting 500 pounds or something. It's ridiculous.
And then in fourth was our pick with 11.22% was Big Marcus Dupree.
So if you've never seen the 30 for 30 on Marcus, and Terry, I know you have, and
Yeah.
of course I've seen it several times, I would suggest you go watch that because you will be thoroughly impressed with Marcus. And you know what? They got it right. The title of that 30 for 30, they got it right.
Yeah. The greatest that never was, or yeah.
The greatest that never was.
Because, and you know, we all sit back as adults and look at the what ifs, and it was genuinely good to see the fact that he sat there and basically said, I should have listened to my mom. You know, his mom told him to go back to OU.
Sure did.
And he said, I should have listened to my mom.
Okay, so I'm sorry, was you done?
No, you go ahead. I mean,
I got to tell this story.
Okay.
Because Terry and I were at, what's that school that Sterling played at?
Heritage Hall.
Heritage Hall. We went up to Heritage Hall to watch Sterling play several times in his senior year. And after the games, of course, we'd go down the field and we'd congratulate Sterling. Well, guess who was there? Marcus Dupree. Terry about knocks my arm off going, Rob, look, it's Marcus Dupree. And I'm like, where? And this big mountain of a guy. I'm not even kidding you.
He was
huge.
Giant.
So I didn't think it was him at first because, I mean, I'm a pretty big guy, and I was dwarfed by him. So he comes over, and we ask him to take a picture, which we have. Terry, why don't you flash that on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll throw it on the Facebook. And
anyway, when he got in the middle of us, and he wrapped his arms, you know, I don't want that to sound gay or whatever, but when his hand hit my right shoulder, it was like some bananas just covering over mine. I was like, my gosh, this guy is huge.
He was huge.
He's a big boy.
And, you know, it just, you know, we all look back in our past as to what if, you know, and, you know, he does now. I mean,
sure.
You know, it's just human nature. But, and what's funny is we Sooner fans, we all talked about, you know, Marcus and, you know, how great he was. And, you know, and then under our breath, we're like, you know, freaking run off and rah. When everybody watched that, all the Sooner fans opened their arms back to that guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, he became part of the family again. He's been at games. He comes around to the high school games and watches. He's part of this program again, and rightfully so, because if you saw the 30 for 30, he listened to the wrong people, let wrong people influence him. And
yeah, but I'm going to say this. As a fan of Marcus Dupree, I really wish that he would have started out at Ole Miss, because then we would have gotten to see him. They probably would have won a couple of national titles.
yeah,
But he would have been happy because he'd have been close to home,
Yeah.
close to mom. But the nation would know who Marcus
right,
Dupree
yeah.
was.
So you mean after he left, ended up playing at Ole Miss?
No, I mean from day one, out of high
Yeah.
school.
Well, true. Yeah, he probably would have stayed there.
Probably.
Yeah. And but yeah, he was just, he was just a beast, and and even Switzer said, he didn't deal with him and handle him like he should.
Nope.
And
But you know what? You can't put all the onus on Switzer, because as a coach, you have got to make them all fall in the same line.
right,
And even though obviously Marcus was a star, you can't treat him any differently than you did some of the other kids, because quite frankly, we had a lot of stars back then.
oh yeah, a lot of them. And one of my favorite stories on that 30 for 30 is when Scott Hill was talking about, he went up to him to basically chew him out. And Marcus was standing there holding the football, and he went to grab the football, and he goes, normally I could pull it out of a kid's hand, and he said he had one hand on it, and he could not pull that ball out of his hand.
That's where you say, you know what, sir? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What do you want to do in practice today? So and then we're going to go to our number 3, which is Adrian Peterson. What most people, if you walk around Norman, and you just ask somebody, they're, oh, AD all day, nothing, especially the kids today,
Yeah.
like Caleb, who's still not here.
Well, that's who they grew up watching.
Yeah.
I
I think the most impressive thing about Adrian was his just physical strength and athleticism. He still has a, awkward running style. He runs upwards, but
You can tell him that when you catch him.
yeah, but I think it was, I think they were talking about he was holding 2 or 25-pound dumbbells in each arm, or they were 45-pound
I
dumbbells.
heard they were 80.
Yeah, and he did like a 40-something foot vertical jump,
Yeah, something stupid.
flat-footed on the top of boxes. And Schmitty, who was our strength and conditioning coach, I hate saying was, but he was, said he had never seen anything like it. Just, flat-footed and boom.
I can imagine that you would.
But I'll still, the only downside when he came here was what was great was the first game he played in was against Texas. And the first time he touched the ball, we were on like the 4-yard line, or on our own 4-yard line. And he almost broke it. I don't remember how far, but he ran past Mac Brown, and we were just rolling because here's a kid that came out of Texas and is fixing to run past the bench. And that was the start of Adrian. Maybe he had ended up being the leading rusher. He did get hurt, still gets hurt a lot, which is amazing to me that somebody with, built like that guy is, that, ends up getting hurt that much.
That's the thing about some of those guys that are so lean like that. They're just so raw, and I don't know. Seems like they get hurt more than.
Yeah. But, he got hurt in the TCU game. That would have been his sophomore year, I believe, when that was Bob's first home loss. It was his first home loss. And, and it was just an awkward, weird little ankle injury. Guy fell on, he's going in the end zone, fell on his, the back of his ankle. Had he not been hurt so much, I think he'd have probably, I don't know if Pirine would have caught it.
Yeah, he could have definitely broke records. I mean, he had speed, size, strength. He had it all.
Yeah.
Has it all.
Yeah,
I
still
think
does.
Yeah, still has it all. But here's an interesting thing, I think. For instance, we were talking about Caleb. This is Caleb's guy, Adrian Peterson, right?
Yep.
And it's really a lot about your era and who you grew up watching. For me, Lydell Carr. Remember, a good friend of ours brought him up on a post not too long ago. And he's about my age. I think he might be a year or two younger than me. But Lydell Carr, he's like Lydell Carr. Of course, Lydell was not a halfback. He was a fullback. And back then, those were true fullbacks.
Right.
So even though he didn't get a lot of carries, there may not have been another phenomenal like him in that position.
Well, and Adrian, he had, we were talking about it earlier. I didn't realize he had this many carries either. He had almost 750 carries at Oklahoma. And he ended up with over 4,000 yards. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry. He ended up second in the Heisman vote in 2004, but he was also, which was his sophomore year, I believe 2004 was. Wasn't it? Or
should have won it.
Yeah. And
should have won it.
But he was a consensus All-American his sophomore year. So, of course, he was drafted by Minnesota. He's been in that, this year he was at New Orleans for just, a couple of games. And now he's been out at Arizona and ended up getting hurt again this year. But
it looked like he was going to have a promising year early on.
But just that they can, keep him healthy. And, he's I remember his rookie year, it was hilarious watching. I mean, every highlight you ever watched on ESPN, the NFL Network, they always had a highlight of Adrian Peterson running over somebody and then outrunning the rest of them. So what about number 2, Rob?
Little Joe. I see him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What a great guy. So I don't remember him, obviously, from my youth. So the only thing I've ever got to see is, YouTube highlights, which is pretty impressive.
Right.
So if you haven't ever looked up Little Joe, you got to look up.
Yeah.
What's the run where he run about a mile?
That was a USC punt return.
You got to look that one up because you're just like, oh my gosh.
He ran backwards forever.
He was so squirrely. I mean, fast, squirrely. I mean, for his 0 to 5 yard speed, it's got to be impressive.
Yeah. And the thing about him is, too, though, I mean, you look at him today, he looks like he could play right now.
He probably could.
He does not look like he aged at all.
He's styling in one of those, I don't know if it's Armani or not, but he's, every time I see him, he's in a suit.
Yeah.
So,
but he definitely is still in shape for, I mean, gosh, 75 was when he was out there. I mean, I was 7 years old, and he looks a lot younger than I do. And he's a lot more fit than I am, but that, most people are. There was one of the runs I remember, it was against, and you can, everybody's seen the picture of it, and if you ever get to see the film of it, is when he flat out hurdles the corner. And, you see guys do that today, but if the thing I always tell Caleb when I've told him to look at it is, this guy isn't coming in to, he's not lowered his shoulders. He's standing straight up when Joe jumps him. These guys, they're hurdling and somebody comes up. He flat out jumped over this guy in a dead run coming around the corner.
And that's why it's a poster.
Yeah.
Because it's impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing what he did with that. But most people, and I agree, say that he would have won, he should have, would have, could have won the Heisman had Oklahoma not been on probation. Because as we know back then, you might get to see a team twice a year. I think that's, at least when I was a kid, you got to see the OU Texas game, the Nebraska game, and maybe if Oklahoma played a USC or Notre Dame or somebody like that, you might get to see them during the regular season, 3 times, and then you'd see their bowl game. Well, they were on probation and they weren't on TV. So nobody's seen him. Nobody, really watched him.
And then nobody voted for him.
Nobody voted for him. But, I mean, he was a 4,000-yard rusher, 6.2 yards average, 30 TDs. He was a good receiver, had 13 receptions, averaged 19.5 yards a reception. He was third in the Heisman in 74, and then fifth in 75, 74 consensus All-American. And he also has, you were talking about the punt return against USC. There was I think he holds the record for Monday Night Football. He returned a punt for a touchdown. I think he returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns in like a pouring rain. And it was pretty impressive to watch. And as a kid, too, I remember watching him. He had that, you see them now, but they have the teeth on them. But back in those days, not many people wore the mouth protector as well as the mouthpiece. He had that big old round mouth protector in there. Yeah, but definitely, an amazing running back. And then we got number 1, as everybody may have thought it was going to be. It's the one, the only, Billy Sims. And I can't really argue with it.
No. His overall speed, athleticism, strength, ability. Billy had it all.
And all of us wanted to be Billy back in the day when we were playing backyard football. I remember, because he would flat out, dive over. If he was, inside the 5-yard line, he was diving head first over the defense. And I believe I was in 5th grade, and we playing flag football, at the boys' club, league flag football. And they had rules, and one of the rules is you couldn't jump people. And Billy caused me to have a touchdown called back because I wanted to be Billy, and I didn't dive over anybody, but I dove in. We were on inside the 5, and I dove into the end zone. And the rule was that if you left your feet like that, if you jumped somebody, the ball was turned over to the other team. It wasn't a 5-yard penalty. It was, it's safety. I had to leave. I didn't get kicked out of the game, but I had to, leave the game and for a couple of plays, and they turned the ball back over to the other team. So, yeah, I lost one of the few touchdowns that I ever scored because I wanted to be like Billy. But amazing stats. I believe, he carried the ball less than everybody else other than Marcus Dupree on here. He had 544 carries for 4,118 yards with a 7.5-yard average.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. You know what?
That's why he can stand out in the audience and yell "Boomer!"
Yeah, and drive Tony Dorsett to nuts because Dorsett was standing next to him this year, and it was hilarious. But he got over 30% of the votes. I think rightfully so. He's obviously one of the most beloved Sooners. Still involved with the program, still loves the program, does a lot of community work with kids, but was an amazing athlete, and he was a big guy. It was and still is a big guy.
Oh, yeah. Sooner born, sooner bred.
Yeah, from Hooks, Texas, and I think it was, I believe it was OU. The story that somebody spent the night with him, or they took him to a hotel so Texas wouldn't get him. I think it was Lucius is the one who took him to the hotel.
Smart.
Yeah, but
smart.
He was an amazing guy, amazing athlete, but all great and rightfully so. And I think it just shows you, what the fans, feel. We all have our favorites. There were several people that said I'm not going to, in our poll said I'm not going to pick one. They're all great. It was Kenneth Townsend said no favorite of all time. They were all great. Boomer Sooners for life. Joe Rozelle agreed with us. Marcus could have gone from high school to the NFL. I agree. He could have. But Billy would be his pick.
So the way to change that is the question, in your opinion, who's the greatest? So you're going to throw in your bias of the person that you saw when you were a kid that you were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's probably people that would say Billy Vessels was the greatest that,
Yeah,
that ever.
absolutely. There
Yeah.
probably are. But here's the thing. There are stats to back all that stuff up. Billy was the number one pick in 1980.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. There was a lot of Hall of Famers in that particular
Yeah.
draft. Anthony Munoz, Art Monk.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, that 1980 was littered with people that could play football.
Yeah.
So,
And I believe it was turf toe that took him down. It's crazy that now turf toe keeps you out for a couple of weeks. They go in there and fix that little tendon in there, but he was never the same again. But let's go through and see what some of the other folks here said. Kaylin Ella said that P. Ryan and Sims are my favorite, followed by Mixon. And we didn't put Murray in here. I didn't see Murray on there. Dwayne Smith loved to watch Billy Sims run. Chuck Benson, the best was Marcus Dupree. If only he could have continued to see him shine, but my favorite was Billy Sims. Mary West, Washington, he was the man. Wendy Hudgens says Peterson, he only played 2 years, but they were amazing years.
she's not wrong.
Nope. See, Chuck Smithson says Billy Sims, without a doubt. They didn't have to throw it to set up the run. He hit a gap in a way that nobody else ever has. He would change the Big 12 back into a rushing league if he showed up next week. Yeah, probably. Ken Templeton, there isn't a best, too many great running backs and other variables at OU to declare an individual number one. Personal preferences, perhaps, but no number one. Yeah. Let's see. Reggie Abraham said, in my opinion, it's a draw between Joe Washington and Adrian Peterson. Joe played when yards came hard. AD also was tenacious, ran like a beast. Have to include Mixon. Had he stayed around, the guy would have outgained them all. I think we need to say if he'd stayed around and had the full 4 years. Stupid mistakes can cost you a lot.
Did you know that Adrian is number 13 on the NFL greatest of all time running backs list? Put
No, I
out
didn't.
by NFL Network.
Wow. That's saying a lot. I mean, again, that he has been hurt so much in the NFL. I don't think since his when he almost broke the single season rushing record, I think that was the only full year he played. He's been hurt every year, hasn't he?
I think so.
And I have to share what my mom said because my mom piked in on the Facebook poll. Said, "Well, I like the years with J.C. Watts, so I say Billy." Actually, she says Billy Boomer Sims. So that's my mom, LaWanna Long. Had to put her in there. Hi, Mom. Love you, Mom.
I feel like this section just went all Waterboy. Okay, let's hear what Mama has to
This is
say.
hear what Mama has to say. Don't be talking about my mama. That's Little Giants. Don't be talking about my mama. So,
All right. Here is the 5 greatest running backs in Oklahoma Sooner history as put out by Sports Day. Are you ready for this?
yes, sir.
Number 5, Marcus Dupree. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have any of the stats that any of these other guys that we've been talking about has, but they recognize him as number 5. And I'm telling you, this school has arguably some of
The greatest running backs ever
yeah.
to play the college game.
Number 4, Joe Washington.
Okay.
Number 3, Adrian Peterson. Number 2, Steve Owens. And guess who's number 1?
Billy Sims.
Booma Billy Sims. Number 1.
Number 1.
So all of you that voted for Billy,
You were right.
you're right.
I agree with our poll a little bit more. I think Joe was a better running back than Adrian.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I did watch him play. I mean, I remember, back in the day. Well, I didn't necessarily get to watch him play as I listened to him play because we used to sit around the transistor radio out in the backyard, but we would sit and listen to the game. And it was just to hear, and then you couldn't wait for the 6 o'clock news that night or the 10 o'clock news so you could watch the highlights.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch that kind of stuff. We didn't have that newfangled television.
Yeah, we only had, like I said, my dad would turn on whatever game was on, and he would turn the volume down, and we'd have the radio on. And he was one. We used to do it too. Me and you did when we used to be able to do this, but turn the volume down on your TV and listen to the Sooner broadcast. But they have a delay on it now, so you really can't do that.
There's a way around that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's too technical. Somebody was telling me about it with the smart TVs. You can do it. I have 3 smart TVs, and I'm too dumb to run one of them. So my 9-year-old, 10-year-old granddaughter, and really my 4-year-old granddaughter know more about how to get stuff on the TV than what I do. So
just think what her kids will know.
Oh,
right?
True. I mean, it's a technical world out there. But that's the result of our poll. We're going to do these, I think, every week to kind of, especially now, we're kind of in the dead season. There's not a lot of football to talk about. But we'll have another one out on either late tomorrow or excuse me, on Sundays is when we'll probably put them out on late Sundays, and then we'll gather the stuff through the week and talk about it on each week's podcast, which I almost forgot. The beer of the week this week is Budweiser, the king of beers. I just had to share that, so got to make sure and get that plug in there. But also today, it was a big day here in Norman. Other than us, putting out our poll results, was Junior Day for the 2019 recruiting, which just dumbfounds me that we just finished signing day 2 weeks ago. Was it? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, and they're already bringing the juniors that'll be seniors that we're wanting to sign in 2019. They brought in 13 players, 6 offensive and 7 defensive, and then they brought in 4 sophomores. We had 1 5-star junior, Kenyon Green. He's an offensive tackle out of Humble, Texas. I think he's making the right choice if he decides to come to Oklahoma, because Beadenbow does. Yeah, he's doing a bang up job on our offensive line. I don't know a lot about these guys. We're not recruiting experts. We just know that that's been the talk all week long. Is all these juniors are going to be in town, and so they rolled out the red carpet. They took them to the OU Texas basketball game today, which I'm probably sure they wish they wouldn't have done that.
Probably.
But so a nice day, for them. We also had yesterday on Friday a Rice graduate transfer who can, he graduated from Rice, can walk right in and play, an offensive tackle by the name of Calvin Anderson. And he's visited Texas, Michigan, and Auburn. It says he'll make his decision in March, and the Sooners are the last ones. He saved us for last. So I don't have didn't look up a lot of stats. I saw a bunch, I follow him on Twitter, saw a bunch of pictures. He's one big dude. I mean, he is big. And apparently he could be an asset in Oklahoma. Obviously you've got Michigan, Texas, and Auburn yanking his chain. So I think it'd be a pretty good get. We'd have a guy who'd walk in here and have a lot of potential. I mean, immediate potential, and make an immediate impact.
Where does he play?
He's an offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle.
Yeah. So
it might be hard to break that starting 5, but just saying they're going to be pretty salty.
Yeah. But they're pretty high on him. I don't think they brought in any of their commitments. We've already got Spencer Rattler. Do we say Rattler or Rattler? I'm gonna say Rattler. It's the quarterback that we already got the commit for.
And according to Caleb, he's a RPO quarterback.
Yep. Not a wishbone though. We got a tight end, Austin Stoger, a wide receiver, 4-star, Trahan Bridges, running back Isaiah Spiller, and a defensive tackle, Derek Green.
Now, some of these kids, even though they're juniors, they have committed. Like Trahan Bridges, he's a 4-star wide receiver. He is committed.
Yeah, he has committed.
He's committed. So his recruiting, obviously has a sign, but
yeah. And the thing I read on these guys, I looked at 3 different areas on these guys. They call them hard commits. So I don't know what that means, but other than they went, yeah, I'm really, really coming to Oklahoma instead of saying I'm coming to Oklahoma.
well, I don't think they're taking any other visits.
Yeah. So we've got some uncommitted targets. We got a 5-star safety out of Tulsa, Washington, Daxton Hill, the one that was here today, a 5-star Kenyon Green, the offensive tackle. We've got a wide receiver, Theo Weiss, tackle Tyler Johnson, and a 4-star Marquez Beeson out of Dallas. So those are, according to some of the experts out there, are the main targets for Oklahoma that they haven't gotten committed yet. Those are the ones they're really focusing in on. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, they know who's leaving, and they got to fill those spots. So yeah, you got to focus on those areas. But when they roll out the red carpet for these guys, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine being recruited by a school like, any of them now, but Oklahoma, to be an 18-year-old kid. I remember when I was 18 years old, I thought the University of Oklahoma Stadium back then in 85 and 84 was amazing. You walk up to that thing now, and it is the palace on the prairie. And it's, and then when you go inside of it, the technology, these guys, they get the best of the best, the best facilities, the best coaching, the best food, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, they roll out the carpet for these guys to put that impression on them that this is where you want. It just dumbfounds me. I got recruited in high school by small schools, and the weight room was down in a basement, and it stunk, and and I thought that was impressive, but to walk into that place now and just to pull up to the front of it to the south end zone is just ridiculous.
Well, the weight room, it's in the speed. They have an indoor speed track, which is turf. It's just one ginormous room, and so when they bring these cats in there, and there's just weights everywhere. I mean, it's impressive. I'm not gonna lie. And then right behind that, they have the waterfall of pools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really cool looking. The locker room it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we went down to Texas. We did. I did, Rob and Caleb, to cut some Rangers games, and they were raving about how the Dallas Cowboys. We went and toured the stadium at the Cowboy Stadium. They were raving about how wonderful this locker room was. It was a joke compared to
Oklahoma Sooners locker room. It's it's a junior high locker room.
Sure they just kept raving about the, was it Australian mahogany lockers that was brought in, and it literally, I was like, and Rob's a huge Cowboys fan. I'm not. I'm a Steelers fan, so I'm sitting there looking at Rob, and Rob's got the same look on his face I know I had. It's like, there ain't nothing to this.
It looked antiquated compared to what these guys, what the Oklahoma recruits are seeing these days. The Dallas Cowboys locker room looks like a 1978 version of locker room.
Yeah, but and then of course they're wanting to impress them more because I guess they're going to bring these kids back for the spring game, or some of them, or if they can't get all of them, and that's why Riley's been pushing the wants 80,000 at the spring game. You think we can get 80,000 in there?
I don't think we'll get 80. I don't know what Oklahoma fans. I mean, a lot of them come out, but 80,000 I think would be a tall order.
Yeah.
Considering we're only getting about 25-30 now.
Yeah. And, somebody said, well, if they'd make it free, they'd probably get that. It used to be free. I mean, you went to it a couple of times.
Yeah, but what is it, $5?
Yeah, to go in there and just, you sit and watch a scrimmage is what you do. It's not a, it's not a smash mouth. You see a lot of coaching, you see a lot of stuff go on, but, it's nothing. What they're wanting to do is put an impression on these kids is that there's not. I don't think there is. I don't think Alabama. I don't think Clemson. I don't think there's anywhere like Oklahoma. I don't think there's anything close to Oklahoma football. Yeah, I'm an Oklahoma fan, but I think the fan base here is one of the best in the country, and we always come in second and third and fourth in these polls because there's not as many people in Oklahoma. You know what I mean? We can't go on these polls and outvote Texas because
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's more Texas fans, and when we went to the Rose Bowl, Caleb was talking about there's a lot more Georgia fans. It's like, well, there's a lot more people in Georgia, and I think a lot of Oklahoma fans were laying their eggs in the basket of the national championship.
Yeah, I talked to several people that said, hey, we were going to be able to go to one game, and we chose the national title game, which we didn't obviously make it to. Thanks for bringing that sore spot up, Terry.
Sorry, my bad. But I mean, I looked at tickets when we were still in the hunt, but there's no way I could afford to go to a national title game. So when I realized where it was going to be at David, I mean that's why I went. And now we've talked about that, hey, let's just make a vacation every year around whatever bowl game OU goes to.
I'm in.
That's about it, I think, for today, guys. Like I said, we'll have another poll out there. If you have any suggestions for the show or anything you want to talk about, you can find us on Facebook. Put it on the page. We look through it every day, and we'll try to figure something out. We are working on lining up some guests, one or two, possibly two, and I haven't shared this one with Rob yet. One of them with Rob yet, but one or two former Sooners may be on the show. We got some folks, other folks like ourselves that we're trying to line up to come in too. So hopefully in the next.
What did you call me?
But hopefully here in the next, you'll see some stuff about some guests that we're going to have on. But again, thank you guys for joining us on our podcast. We'll talk to you next time.
Go vote for our Roughnecks.
Yes, go vote for the Roughnecks. It's out on our Facebook page, and I'll keep posting it out there until the poll is over. So we'll talk to y'all next time. Boomer, Rob.
Boomer, Terry.